The Xbox Partner Preview shows us some games to look forward to, Nick shows us some games we can play now, and Josh and I talk about nerdy numbers and specs and whatnot.
Tonight on Top Tango, Andy explores his streamuality, Nick accidentally makes a ghost, and Josh sweats over Ghost Riders high on VRAM.
Hi, I'm Josh, and I've been simulcasting these nipples for years.
I'm Andy, this is Video Game Tango. Hey! Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Video Game Tango.
Hello.
Shalom.
Shalom in the home.
Say hi.
Home in the home.
To redecorate. It rhymes, okay?
This, in case you didn't know, is a podcast where we sometimes talk about video games and video game news.
That is true. That is true.
But today's Halloween, so instead we're going to talk about video games.
I mean, it's almost
And
Halloween.
video game news.
Yes.
So, in video game news, hey, Xbox just kind of like randomly threw out this partner preview is what they're calling it.
Hey, here you go. Have a bunch of games.
Pretty much, Xbox said, "Hey, we wanna put the spotlight on some of our third party creators."
Freudian slip.
Yeah, well, I haven't peed in a while. So basically, they're like, we have other studios that make games for us, and this whole Activision Blizzard thing has taken like a long time and gotten like all focus. So like, why don't we just show off some other creators? There's no other good news going on right now, so like, let's go. Just go ahead.
You mean Xbox isn't just Bethesda?
Nope.
Okay.
We don't say that word here.
Excuse me. Yeah, sorry. Pre-podcast was a bit of a riot. What do we got first on the docket?
I'm
Here,
talking about
sir?
it already. The Xbox partner preview.
I'm keeping us on track.
Yes. So
Speaking of tracks and leaving none.
one of the things they showed off was Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. That is what they're calling the Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater remake. And they showed a little bit of gameplay. So along with not just showing off some pretty graphics and stuff, they showed that they are really trying to capture the essence of the original game, and that this is supposed to be a remake of the classic Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. So they're just showing off the environment. They're showing off like a lot of the differences between like Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3 was the fact that you needed to stay camouflaged. You had multiple different versions of camouflage. It was as much a survival game as it was a stealth action game, right? So you have venomous snakes, alligators, crocodiles,
Cave demons
that you have to deal with. You also have to worry about things like being poisoned, making sure that you keep yourself fed. So as much as it was a tactical espionage game like its predecessors, it really did have an element of survival in the game, and they're really showing that off here. So glad to see that work is progressing with the Snake Eater remake, along with Metal Gear Solid 2. It would put Metal Gear Solid 3 up at the absolute tippy top of my favorite games of all time.
It's a golden era of Metal Gear Solid.
100%.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the first two had their kookiness, but Metal Gear Solid 3 was really the first one to just out-of-pocket weirdness.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Dude, and, like Metal Gear Solid 2 had like an entire mini game where you could do skateboarding, like a la Tony Hawk. This one had Ape Escape. Which was a lot of fun. And yeah, I love the ultra zany nature of Konami games from the era, and to see that kind of coming back, not taking itself too seriously, hopefully, and really trying to capture the original, like the magic that the original held. Because like Metal Gear Solid 2 is a very serious game for the most part. Right. And so is the story of Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah.
But where Metal Gear Solid 2 was kind of a, while it was serious, it was kind of a crazy go nuts, clearly very Japanese story. Metal Gear Solid 3 really amped that up in the theme of like its enemies and bosses and stuff like that. And while they're two games in the same series, I do view them very separately from like a gameplay and meta level. Where I don't look at them. Of course, they aren't sequels, but I don't even like look at them at necessarily the same category of game. They have this. They have the quote unquote same protagonist, even though he's technically different. And it shares a lot of the tactical espionage portions of the first two games. It is very much kind of in its own section, corned off in my brain as like a totally different game. And to see that they're trying to stay faithful to that is excellent. I love that.
Good to hear.
Yeah. So not only did we see Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater remake, they showed the release trailer for Alan Wake 2. So we got new content and gameplay footage from Alan Wake 2. They do show off a little bit of a boss fight. And it looks
The classic Alan Wake boss fight.
yeah, and it looks fucking terrifying. You're fighting a demon that can go invisible, and all you can see is little like blip trails in the middle of the air where it might be, and you can use light to burn the shit out of it. But ultimately, it looks like you got to kill this thing, and fucking looks excellent. I really highly suggest you check out that trailer. Another trailer that I think you should check out is the first gameplay footage reveal for Ark Survival Ascended. Not only coming to PC, but Xbox as well. So it is another remake. So it's going to be Ark. It was Survival Evolved, the first one, right? Survival Ascended is a remake of Ark Survival Evolved, but in an Unreal 5 engine instead of using Unity, which is what the engine that they used originally for the first game.
I'm glad they ditched Unity.
Yeah, I mean, this has been in the pipeline for a lot longer than Unity has had.
Yeah, for sure. But it's
been in the spotlight.
It's nice to see like a game, like a big game,
a big one,
big one right off the bat. I mean, like it already switching. I know it's in the works already, but it's good to see him switch.
It
off
is decently contentious due to the fact that we found out that this new remake is $45. But it's not just technically a remake. They are replacing the official original Survival Evolved with this new remake, meaning that you will have to, assumedly, repurchase the game that you already own.
That is what it sounds like.
I mean, there's a lot of arguments for and against it. Like, I don't want to get into the weeds.
Level, like if we just kind of wax poetic on this for a second, at a certain level I understand, like, hey, this is a new game, we put it on a new engine, it took devs to do this, it took testers to make sure everything's working properly. I get that they're looking to get a little Skrilla for the work they put in, and people deserve to be paid for that work that they put in. So, like, I feel like there should be a nice middle ground where, like, hey, you've already owned you've already owned this game. You've already paid for it once. We're going to give you like 50% off on the new thing. Like, I mean, I
think that would be the best case scenario.
It sucks to be charged. Yeah. But a nice healthy discount would, I feel like, go a long way to assuage that wound.
I don't want to be an apologist, but I think a good way to frame this is they could have just sunset the game. They could have said, hey, next year we're trying to come out with Ark 2. We cannot afford to continue to run servers and all the, like, support and dev time and bug fixing for the original game as well, so it's going to be gone and you won't get to play it at all. It still sucks to have to essentially repay money for a game you already own, but I think this is a relatively okay scenario given that it's not like Ark came out last year. Right? The game's been out forever.
It's been out for a long time now.
You've probably gotten your $60 worth of play out of it if you paid for it. It's also, like, I think been on Game Pass or similar things.
Yeah, and they've had free weekends. They've
also had huge sale weekends.
Yeah.
So,
the game's practically an MMO for all intents and purposes. Yeah. So it could be worse. But
it could be.
Keep that in mind that if you do own the original Ark and you're somehow not familiar with this remake, when this comes out sometime shortly thereafter, you will have to pay another $45 to continue playing. That said, it does look way better,
immensely better.
It is
does.
night and day difference. Looks like an entirely different game, and I do believe they are overhauling some of the UI, which is much needed, and some other tweaks. So there are going to be a little bit of gameplay changes on top of that.
Yeah. Now I don't think it's clear to us yet that even though the game's servers are going to be taken down, there are third-party servers. Like people host through other third parties, or they manage to host servers themselves.
I imagine there will be ways to continue to play the original game.
Probably. It's part of the default UI to be able to browse servers. So I imagine you'll probably be able to host your own server. You just won't be able to play any of the company hosted servers, most likely. I don't imagine they would stop your ability to host a server or
that'd be too far.
It'd be weird. Considering that it takes no work on their part to allow that to continue.
Money off these private servers.
Yeah. Then why not make money on your original game if people decide they still want to buy it, right? So
who knows?
So hopefully that the ability to host your own server and build your own servers will still be there. I don't imagine them taking it away, but time will tell. Along with that news, we got new details on Ichiban Kasuga's upcoming adventure, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. So Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is a continuation of the Yakuza games series story. They've decided to kind of rebrand and stop using the Yakuza moniker for their game. You still are a member of the Yakuza mob. But what they showed off here wasn't necessarily mainline gameplay for your typical Yakuza game. Yes, as chat brings up, Vin Diesel is going to be in Arc 2. That is correct. Interesting thing. Going back to Like a Dragon, though, what they showed off today wasn't your typical Yakuza-style gameplay. What they had to show off, actually, was their secondary.
They put Animal Crossing in Yakuza.
They put Animal Crossing in Yakuza. So it's called Dondoko Island, and that's what they were featuring today. It looks like you can take a vacation from being your Yakuza gang member self and travel to Dondoko Island, where you essentially play Animal Crossing. I mean, even to the point where Nick pointed out where they were capturing butterflies in butterfly nets, spearing and catching fish, building a home, working, doing some kind of furniture crafting. And it looks like it's going to be...
You just want to go to a place where you've built it and everybody knows your name, bro.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. Yes. So... It's a whole other side to the game that looks like it's almost like its own game. Looks really well thought out for what is not supposed to be part of the main story elements of this game. So super cool. I mean, you're supposed to interact and please your other island dwellers. You make a home there. Eventually, you gain enough money, wealth, power, influence, or whatever to start creating infrastructure and building towns on the island.
You can buy a tiger.
Couldn't do that in Starfield.
Yeah.
There's no tigers in Starfield.
I mean, honestly, it seems more in depth than the base building I got into the last Fallout or Starfield.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I mean, not to throw shade or whatever, but this is just a side mission, like a side thing?
It's just a side thing. This is totally aside from the main storyline of the Yakuza's franchise. So
you can give scientists lawn chairs?
Yeah.
There's a parrot that speaks Wi-Fi.
There is a parrot that speaks Wi-Fi. It looks like the whole thing looks crazy, go nuts. It's like
if you know anything about Yakuza, you know what you're getting into here.
Yeah, because they've always done some pretty different stuff in their games, but this one seems like they went real hard on it, trying to give you like the ultimate mini game. It very much is a game within a game. So I wanted to point that out as part of like the really cool things they showed at the partner preview. Furthermore, they continue to show Still Wakes the Deep. It comes from the Chinese Room. They are known best for their entry into the Amnesia franchise for A Machine for Pigs and Dear Esther, apparently. I played neither, so I don't know exactly like
I know
how
good
people feel
about
it.
Machine for Pigs, watching look backs and documentaries on it. And Dear Esther is one of the famous walking sims of the early 2010s, if I remember right.
Yeah. So there's that. it does look like a bit like a walking simulator, like a horror themed walking simulator. They showed off more gameplay from Manor Lords, and shared the Game Pass release date. It's coming out April 26, 2024, and then should show up on consoles shortly after that. It is a game that caters best to PC, as it takes like almost an RTS perspective, and there's a lot of micromanagement in Manor Lords. So mouse and keyboard is probably going to be the preferred method to play it. But being that Xbox has recently become more acquainted with mouse and keyboard, you can use them for select games. I'm sure this will be one as well.
I just want to point out it's 2023 and we still don't have common mouse and keyboard usage on consoles. What?
I mean, like, it's definitely getting there, but it's not where it should be. Yeah,
should have been there 20 years ago.
It really should have been, of course. I mean, it was there. There was the mouse peripheral for the Super Nintendo. There was the mouse peripheral for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I mean,
they just chose to stop doing it.
They just kind of they
nope,
stopped for a while. It's
not.
like, can't do that. We also got a preview for Icaro Will Not Die. Very, very short, not gameplay filled teaser trailer. Not sure what to think about that one. Honestly, the trailer doesn't do anything for me.
Anything about the game?
No, nothing about the game. So what they say is Future Lab and Thunderful showed off their newest upcoming game, Icaro Will Not Die, a lightning-paced action adventure with roguelite elements set in a futuristic neon facility. There is a lot of neon
jargon.
Yeah, the trailer shows jargon. They also showed off Spirit of the North 2. So Spirit of the North, relatively successful indie game.
Yeah, decently well received from what I remember.
Yeah, certainly. At least well received enough and enough sales to make a second one. The crux of this one is you play a fox again, but you're also given a bird companion. So.
It's Journey, but you're a spirit fox.
Pretty much. Yeah.
If you like Journey, you'll like that. Spirit of the North 2?
Spirit of the North 2.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We also got another look at RoboCop, Rogue City. So looks neat. Looks like RoboCop. So far, people that have got their hands on the early access portion of the game seem relatively excited about it. Have good things to say. I really haven't heard any bad things so far.
RoboCop is just problematic as fuck.
Yeah.
So
not wrong.
So RoboCop. They also showed, they gave us a tour of Dungeons of Hinterberg. I don't know, a trailer that did the game no justice. It really does not explain what the game does or is, but it's cel-shaded graphics and it looks kind of neat and has social aspects. And then they did show off one of the last trailers for The Finals. The Finals has been in the works for quite some time. It comes out relatively soon. I don't remember the release date, but there is a closed beta that starts on the 26th.
Better start studying. It's the finals.
Oh, I was like, for betas. There is a closed beta. If you haven't signed up, sign up now. I know you'll be listening to this probably a little bit late, but you can still get in for the weekend closed beta if you're listening to this on Friday. So I've played a little bit of an earlier closed beta version of the finals. The one that I played was a really early entry and did have an NDA, so I wasn't able to talk about it at the time, but it's a relatively neat shooter, does some things pretty well, does some things that as far as optimization goes that aren't too great, but they have had substantial time to work on it since my last playtest. And hopefully they'll have ironed out the performance issues that I experienced. Otherwise, relatively good game. I mean, pretty solid, fast-paced.
Like 3/4 Apex, 1/4 Rainbow Six Siege.
Pretty much, yeah. With a couple little inventive things. I mean, being able to make walls really quickly out of a foam spray and being able to make platforms for platforming purposes even.
I mean, to be fair,
was pretty cool.
A game that has all this.
For sure.
People hate it. So
yeah, I mean, this game is a culmination of a lot of elements of other games turned into. it's not quite a battle royale. You start out, if I remember correctly, with 5 teams, and you play 5 rounds, and eventually it's the top 2 teams facing off against each other. The goal is to earn as much money, get as many kills, and create as much havoc as possible in a limited amount of time. So, pretty cool. The gunplay was decent. Nothing to write home about for me, but I didn't have any problems with the gunplay. It was really fast paced. A lot of really good like building destruction, not necessarily terrain, but
actual building destruction,
Yeah.
falling apart, people on roofs falling over, and
Yeah.
falling with the building. Yeah.
And really, what they show in the trailer is gameplay footage, and it is representative of how destructible the buildings are. So, pretty cool game. I'll check it out when I think probably at full release. I'm pretty sure I am invited to this beta. I might check it out again and see how it's gotten, but probably going to be something that I actually play when it comes out for its final release.
And you'll probably be the only one to play it because it doesn't look like it's going to run on anyone else's computer.
It'll run on Josh's.
It'll run on Josh's.
we can play some, Josh.
You ready to be angry at Apex again?
Yeah, pretty
Definitely.
much. Yeah.
It's
So-
been almost enough time. I feel like I'm ready.
Yeah.
So that was the Xbox partner preview. Pretty good little preview. It's only 20 minutes. Go check it out on YouTube. We will definitely have links for that in the show notes. On to the next thing, Nick.
I've got 3 things that are actually a thing right now.
Yeah,
All 3 of them are available to be thinged.
check them out.
The breadth is not super wide, but it is October 20 something, and games are wherever they are right now. So 3 games that have caught my eye the last week or 2. The first off, a little one, interesting one, is Backpack Battles. For any of you Super Auto Pets fans out there, if you're a follower of Northern Lion, you know what I'm talking about. Backpack Battles is an interesting mashup take on something like Teamfight Tactics, if you will, or those auto battler games that were popular a couple years ago. But in between rounds of you PvP fighting other people, you make your build and your level essentially by sorting inventory in your backpack, much like the famed indie game Backpack Hero, which kind of restarted this genre a few years ago. In between rounds, you get to a shop and you get to buy items, and items have all kinds of crazy synergies depending on what else you have in your backpack, the orientation of the things in your backpack, where they're located. You can combine items, all that. You can save money for later. You can do all these fun things. And then between those shopping little sprees, your character auto battles an opponent, a random other real life person who's also is sorting their backpack. This appeals to a certain type of person. I am that type of person. If you like sorting things, and if you like the idea of sorting something and it gives you bigger numbers, this is the game for you. You can try it for free on itch.io. Backpack Battles IO or itch.io should bring it up on Google. I'm pretty sure that version isn't the most current up-to-date one because it is a for money product. I don't remember off the top of my head how much it costs, but I can't imagine it's much. It's not. I take it back. Not actually out yet. April 2024. I thought it was out because it's been blown up on my YouTube. But at the very least, you can try it out if you want on itch.io and see if you like it. Next up, we have a pretty big title, one that has been going on for 20 years now. Galsiv, I think.
Are we just rolling through all your games?
I assumed so. I don't have much to say
I
about
figured we
them.
were going to be doing one at a time.
Okay,
as far
well,
as
we will save that one. What
save
do you
that
got,
one.
Josh?
Save that
All
one.
right.
Let's give Josh the podium.
All right, cool beans. No, we actually, so we already talked about Alan Wake a little bit with your Xbox pairing mashups partnership, Xbox partnership. There it is. I remember what it was called. Go me. Alan Wake 2 got that new trailer, but the game also just drops October 27th, which I believe is Friday. I believe it's Friday, October 27th.
It is.
So in Australia, that's already now. But no.
Australia is in the future.
So on October 27th, the next installment from Remedy will be out. Now, this isn't your daddy's Alan Wake back in 2010 on the 360. This is
Jr.
This is something else. This is something else. Now, it's PC requirements, and you can get this on PC via the Epic Game Store. But its PC requirements for low are getting pretty stiff. So if you haven't built a PC since, before the pandemic, well, you might be waiting on Alan Wake.
I think I got that pre-pandemic
You
PC.
got that pre-pandemic PC. You might be waiting on Alan Wake. So for low settings, you're going to need a NVIDIA RTX 2060 or a Radeon RX 6600, 16 gigabits of RAM. Right across the board there, 90 gigs of memory in the SSD. You cannot be spinning up your fucking HHD on this shit, guys. Come on now.
Nope.
It's 2023. We're past that. So even those low requirements are a little bit stiff. Moving into recommended settings, you're going to need an RTX 3070 or the Radeon 6700 XT. You're going to need an AMD Ryzen 7 series in the 3700X or an Intel equivalent. So even my beast is just under requirements on recommended settings, and my PC is fairly new. Some older stuff, but still
I do want to point out real
beastly.
quick. The first settings that you mentioned were for 1440p recommended at 30 FPS. The settings that you're talking about now are actually 1080p settings, but they will get you 60 FPS.
Yes.
So for 1080p 60, you need a 3070 or a Radeon 70 or 6700 XT. At least 8 gigs of VRAM is what they say. You need to turn on DLSS or FSR2 to performance mode, and you will need a Ryzen 7 3700X or Intel equivalent. So something like
that's true. In the recommended settings, there is two different. You can split up those settings. That is very true. For high settings, for the Ultra 4K settings, you need to have a PC that's powered by the Omicron particle. Like, I don't know what the fuck. So you're gonna need the RTX 4070 or the Radeon 7800, or you're gonna need an AMD Ryzen 737. Like the CPU requirements are the same actually for the for recommended there. But yeah, you're gonna need that big boy, that 4070.
That'll get you 4K.
That'll get you 4K.
But again, I want to mention that is for graphics settings of medium.
Yeah.
In 4K.
Oh, I'm still in. I'm sorry, guys. There's to scroll down.
There's another level.
There's another level.
Omicron ain't got nothing.
Omicron ain't got nothing on this. There's low ray settings, medium ray settings, high ray tracing settings. So
everybody loves.
Here's the
settings.
resolution 4K. FPS 60. This is the Omicron particle one, guys.
Yeah.
You're gonna need that 4080, 16 gigs of VRAM, your DLSS and your FSR2. It's gonna need to be at performance level.
I don't have 16 gigs of real RAM, let alone virtual ghost RAM.
You got 16 gigs of RAM.
The
ghost RAM?
CPU is again the same requirement there, but good Lord.
Yeah.
Those are some settings.
Those are some settings for a game where you play as a writer.
Yeah.
Like, let's all take a minute to think about the fact that this is a game where you're a writer who's done too many drugs. This is, what is that Las Vegas movie? The game, but in 1440R.
But now, while Alan Wake 2, yes, does sit at the higher end of specs right now for games coming out to play in the, at the top end. This is I feel like only what is to come for gaming in the 2020s. So I mean, I think we just got to be prepared, guys. It's time to gonna be upgrading every 2 years.
Honestly, it sounds really weird to say, but Alan Wake 2 is the new Crysis. Even more so than like Cyberpunk.
The last 2 or 3 years have really shown me that there is a divide in games. These AAA games that are like, look, we don't give a shit if you're poor.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a bad PC, tough fucking luck. We're selling this
It's happening
to people who have the non-human person raw entity Ghost Mine of Demos installed in their fucking computer. So for those of you that can play it, I hope it's pretty. I hope you can see him actively sweating in fear.
Yeah.
I
want to talk real quick about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I know it's weird.
That's surprising.
It's not like I talk about this or like World of Warcraft ever, but just real quick.
Honestly, at this point, you've birthed it, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
rebirthing it, man. So it looks like Thai gaming website, This Is a Game, recently spoke to Heyoki Hamaguchi, Tetsuya Nomura, and Yoshinori Kitase.
There's a Thai gaming website called Game?
Called This Is Game.
Oh, I thought you just said Game.
Yeah, This Is Game. Who's talked about what you should expect out of how many hours you can get out of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It looks like you're going to be getting more than you were with Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is good because I feel like Remake, while it was a good story, I didn't feel like I got cheated out of my $60. Only gave me probably about 30 hours of gameplay for my first run, and I did a nearly 100% completion in my first run. My second run actually went faster with 100% completion. So I think if you are an experienced gamer of any sort and you know RPGs, especially if you know the basic mechanics of Final Fantasy VII, when it comes to materia and that kind of thing, you can kind of breeze through. As far as RPGs go, you kind of breeze through Final Fantasy VII Remake, where Rebirth says will take around 40 hours to beat if you are only doing the mainline content. So if you really do focus and all you want to do is get the story, and you're going to follow the breadcrumbs properly, you get about 40 hours. They estimate that you should be able to get over 100 hours to fully complete everything, including all the side quests and open world activities.
You know what that sounds like to me? Game's 40 hours long, and then there's 60 hours of golden saucer content.
That's kind of what it feels like. I'm hoping they do a little bit of chocobo breeding. I don't think they're going to, unfortunately.
It's 100 hours compared to 40.
Yeah.
Where are those 60 hours going?
Well, dude,
it's definitely into bird fucking.
I'll tell you right now, I easily spent a couple 100 hours in bird fucking. So
is it weird? I want at least an hour per dollar that I spend.
That's bare minimum.
Right? That's I want at least, right?
Games.
I want an hour per dollar that I spend. Is that
yes.
What is your pricing? Real quick, just a tangent for a second. What is can we just say the acceptable?
It's going to vary wildly. For me, most games that I enjoy that I feel like I got my fair share of money, it's probably closer to 10 to 20 cents per hour. I literally, if I enjoy a game, I'm going to put at least 100, 200 hours into it. And the games I buy are usually 10 to $30.
Fair enough.
I think where the issue in that lies is I think we as a group play a lot of games that have a lot of replayability or
Sure.
Right. Especially when we start talking about Civ and stuff, where every time you load up the game, you can have a slightly different experience. Right.
Yeah.
I think we play a lot of those games.
But you've probably got hundreds of hours in Apex and GTA 5 and Red Dead 2.
Things,
right?
Those are meant to be infinitely replayable.
Yeah, those are meant to be highly replayable. But something like Spider-Man, for instance, I don't expect to get 70 hours of gameplay out of that, but
the quality is there.
But the quality's there. But I kind of want 35. I want
certainly
exactly.
Especially out of this is an RPG. Yeah. RPGs typically go anywhere between 40 and 80 hours easily.
It's just I get nervous when I shell out money for a big AAA game and I get 15 hours of gameplay
for sure
out of it, and I'm like.
I think there's a false promise in modern AAA games that didn't used to exist, where if you think about going to watch a movie in the theater, you're paying $15, maybe $25 if you're getting treats, right? For between an hour and a half and 3 hours of content. And rarely do you ever say to yourself, wow, that price to entertainment ratio is nothing compared to video games.
Yeah.
Because you're not going there for a video game experience.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Movies, it's okay to spend $20, $30 to go get 2 hours of entertainment. Video games exist on such a breadth of axes where some games are 2 hours long and you'll remember them for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And some games you'll sink 500 hours into it and you go to Steam and you give it a bad review, right? you can't compare all games.
Yeah.
But in a baseline, I really think if I had to pull a number out of my ass, $1 per hour is probably a good starting place for any given game.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Cool beans.
So yeah, it's a broad generalization, but there are certainly a lot of other instances where that doesn't quite make sense. But I agree with that statement for sure.
Sorry to take us down tangent lane
No, it's okay.
in the middle of the thing there, but I liked that it was 40 hours. Dude, and
we can do as many video game tangents as you would like.
That's the name of the podcast.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right there.
Yeah.
TANG.
Oh, video game tangent.
Video game tangent.
Video game tanjo.
Yeah, Tanjo. Oh, Nick, you have another game that you'd like to talk about.
I do. We're going to bring it up a second time. Time dilation. Y'all remember Mega Bloks, right? They were Legos, but not quite.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't mean to disparage.
Legos for if you grew up in a house with wheels.
Yeah.
Galactic Civilizations has been a game series now for about 20 years. And in those 20 years, it's always like that guy who shows up at the party. You're like, he's cool, but I don't know who invited him, right? Like, how did he get here? How do you know? I mean, he brought some good stuff, but it's just kind of a weird, crazy dude. I remember sinking hundreds of hours into the first couple Galactic Civilizations, but even then you look back on it, you're like, man, that game's just fucking kooky. Like, it's this weird, like, blend of original vibe Star Trek with modern sensibilities, and it's got weird, corny humor. But on top of that, it's always had these really unique and interesting systems when compared to other 4X style games that gave it some staying power. That said, Galciv 3 was kind of donkey balls, and it's been a long time since I've even thought about Galactic Civilizations as a series. That said, Galciv 4 released onto Epic Games, I believe, about a year ago to very little fanfare because it sucked donkey balls like the third one did. But now they've had a year to fix it and has had a full Steam release, and this version is called Galactic Civilizations IV Supernova. A lot of my Stellaris YouTubers have been playing this. I've been watching some other people play it. And it seems like they are getting back to that Galciv 2 style level of good quality gameplay. It has some of the elements of really older style 4X games, things like Masters of Orion, but updated well enough for modern sensibilities that it won't drive you mad setting individual tax rates on tiny nations of your planets. On top of that, they do some really weird things. The character empire customization is as bonkers as it ever has been in Civ, to the point where now when you make your own civilization, you can pick humanoids or plants or rocks or whatever. There's a search box where you type in a short sentence description of your Civ, and an AI ChatGPT style thing makes a Civ for you and creates a portrait of your race.
Cool.
You could just generate these things on the fly. You can save them to make them as other empires in your galaxy. But Galciv, if you haven't ever played it, it finds a niche, this ultra small niche that is almost halfway between traditional Civilization, the 4X board game we all know and love, and Stellaris or something along those lines. It does not have the complexity of Stellaris. It does not have the board game feel that Civilization has. One thing it's always been known for is the ship customizer. You can spend more time in that than actually playing the game. Every single individual ship and ship type and framework you build, you can make piece by piece. You can individually move around what type of engines you want and where you want them on the ship. You can make it look like a hamburger. You can make it look like the USS Enterprise. You can make it look like a picture of you holding Galciv 4 playing on the PC. And if you want, you can do that. But again, it is a medium weight 4X game. 4X again, meaning explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. Basically, you get to pretend, play that you control a star empire and try to make allies or destroy your opponents and take over the galaxy. I like to bring it up because I've always wanted to really like the Galactic Civilization games, but they're just janky in their own kind of fun, charming way. And I'd kind of given up on this series after Galciv 3 bit the dust. But this is exciting to hear. I probably will be picking this up and giving it a shot. So I'm glad the series is hopefully having a bit of a resurgence, because We just more sci-fi games, please.
Yeah.
As many as you want to give me, I will play them.
As long as they're not Starfield.
Yep. Not that one.
Josh.
All right. Now, I want to also talk. We've talked Alan Wake. We've talked requirements and specs. Well, PS5 is releasing its slim model coming out this very November, boys and girls.
The Atkins edition.
It has a removable disc drive. So, like, if you got the slim, you still want to be able to watch your Blu-rays. Well, there is a solution. Now, there's a little quirk with this solution. For some reason, for your disc player, because you can remove it and take it with you, it needs an internet connection to connect to your PS5 Slim. That's going to be presumably right there next to it. Now, this, of course, worries people because the internet requires servers, and sometimes gaming companies don't always like to provide those. So if the servers get shut down for this, is this going to require the big worry is that every time you disconnect and reconnect this thing, it needs to connect to the internet and thus the PlayStation servers to talk to the PlayStation right next to it, right?
Yeah.
So if eventually, say, PlayStation 6 comes out and they want to cut some prices somewhere, well, now those servers don't work anymore, and now your thing doesn't connect, is a huge worry. Now, that is, again, speculation. PlayStation hasn't said whether or not that it's going to need to connect every single time, or if this is a one-time thing to talk to that particular PlayStation. But that's like a super weird thing to have hardware need an internet connection to talk to hardware right next to it, right? Couldn't you Bluetooth that or some shit? Or just have a plug-in or
a couple of things. Question number one, do we know enough now to know, is it only needing this internet connection while you have the CD drive removed from the PlayStation, or does it need it all the time? Like on top of your PlayStation needing internet connection?
It seems it's a setup thing. So when you connect it, at least for the first time, it's going to require a internet connection to connect to the PlayStation.
So this is an extra peripheral you have to buy on top of the PS5.
Yes.
It's an external drive.
Yes.
Okay. You said removable.
It is removable. So there is a slot on the PlayStation.
With the PS5.
It does not come with the PS. Well,
It is an external, but also
it is not external.
drive.
It is internal. It is an add-on. Yeah. We'll use
an
that.
Additional internal removable drive.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Companies love to give things internet connections because it gives them a control over the device that they can shut down whenever they want, so they can force you to buy their next thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the chief worry.
That is
on this
standard practice nowadays.
I do want to point out that there may be actually a legal reason that they're doing this. So it's possible that the requirement is just the company complying with the archaic bit of Digital Millennium Copyright Act, intended to prevent piracy. As pointed out, Lost in Cult CEO John Doyle and others, Section 1201 of the law makes it illegal to circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a copyrighted work.
I don't believe it.
I do. There
has never been an external CD drive or DVD drive in my knowledge of history that required by DMCA an internet connection.
Sure, that's true, but they may have. So I believe that this may. Again, I'm not saying that it is, but it may be for DMCA purposes. I don't know how the whole thing assembles and why they would need to do that, but I do know that, I've worked in consumer electronics retail, where people purchase large like home entertainment systems, right? And part of their home entertainment system is the oh my god, I can't think of the name. It's the box that you plug everything into, right?
Set-top box?
Sure. Well, we'll call it that. So it's the heart of your home entertainment system. After software updates, which will happen, ever so often, because you have to update Blu-ray protocol, or you have to update
and stuff.
Yeah, but sometimes suddenly somebody's Blu-ray player will stop working, And as somebody that's worked in that field, I know that more often than not, it's because they're using too old of an HDMI cable that is not the brand new DMCA HDMI protocol. So it's not able to match with the new protocols for anti-piracy from DMCA. So I do think that it is possible that the way they're integrating it may have required some kind of online connection to do a handshake on occasion to make sure that it was totally DMCA compliant. I have no doubt. As much as I don't want to defend Sony,
it's very reasonable if it's occasional like check-ins to home base.
Yeah,
but I couldn't tell if this was like constant online 24/7 needed internet connection,
right,
or send back to home base every once in a while.
It is all speculation right now as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
So people are making a big deal of it, but they may actually have a legal requirement.
Still wrapping my head. So you buy a PS5 Slim, and it comes with a hole in it where you can buy an external CD drive to put into it.
So basically it looks just like the PS5 does currently. It's just considerably smaller. It's like half the size of the PS5. The side plate will come off just like the PS5 does. You can take off the white side plates. You can take off the right side plate and add the Blu-ray drive add-on. Yeah, you're looking at that left picture right there. That is effectively what it is.
Which
see that middle object?
The housing.
That's the housing. The middle object is the disc drive, and then you have the PlayStation 5.
Okay.
So
it's a Rumble pack for the PS5.
Pretty much. Yep. But yeah, it'll allow you Blu-ray playback and physical game media. So it is an optional thing. They're making it optional. Instead of two versions of the PlayStation disc, one with disc and one that's discless, they're going to have one version of the PlayStation 5 Slim, and you can get the optional Blu-ray disc pack.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there may be a legal reason for them. I'm not really defending Sony here. They make proprietary bullshit all the time, like especially when it comes to storage media and stuff like that.
So, the PS5 Slim does launch on November 8th, and while the standard PS5 model is $500, the PS Slim will be $450, with the standalone attachment being $80. Now, once current stock of PS5s are sold, that's it. That's all there is. There will only be the new Slim models will be the only ones available after that.
Yeah. That all of this is pretty typical. Stuff.
Yeah,
like you usually get multiple refreshes during the console cycle.
for sure. It's just like I don't know. It's just, to me, it feels weird to have hardware to have that requirement to talk to each other like that. But
yeah, I mean, Sony does listen. I'm not a Sony apologist. I like a lot of their products, but they do a lot of shifty shit, like trying to create their own storage media. You couldn't use SD card or any kind of micro SD. You couldn't use any regular form of storage when it came to the PSP. Right.
Shifty.
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff. Like they came out with their own proprietary storage media for their cameras for a long time. Yeah. So where if you used any other brand's cameras, you could use a standardized form of flash memory.
Yeah, sure.
Or you couldn't in Sony cameras. So they're not above doing memory sticks. They're not above doing some shady shit just to keep you in their walled garden, so to speak. But in this case, it may not be that way. Again, it's all speculation. The PS5 Slim isn't out in people's hands yet, so we don't know for sure. We don't know if it's going to be like semi-regular handshakes or whether it's going to be every time the console boots that you need to connect to the internet to get Blu-ray playback. Time will tell as far as that's concerned. So just wanted to bring that up.
Also, a minor hit for game preservation, as we just transition further and deeper into an all digital media. Honestly, it's another hit there. So
modern game devs do not give a shit.
Yeah, kind of is what it is at this point.
Yep.
Let's see. We got another thing. Oh, hey, let's talk about hardware some more. NVIDIA could be working on a processor to compete with Intel and AMD.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So now, I've talked. What's up?
I said, whoa.
Oh,
yeah.
I've
That's
talked
exciting.
a little bit about the ARM architecture versus x86 architecture. I won't rehash that again. It's just a different version of compute.
Go back and listen to the episode, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago.
That's right.
Yep.
So ARM is growing, and the x86 market is getting smaller. Because ARM is featured in so many mobile devices, especially now that Apple is using them exclusively, including their own self-made processors for their Mac lineup. And Microsoft has jumped on that bandwagon too, where they've had exclusivity up until the end of this year with the ARM architecture on Windows. So they have developed a version of Windows that will run on the ARM architecture. It's still pretty early, not the most reliable thing ever. But they've had exclusive access to ARM's process node so that only they can manufacture laptops and devices that can use Windows on ARM. That is coming to an end in early 2024. So Qualcomm is looking like they are pairing up with both NVIDIA and AMD to make ARM processors for Windows, meaning that you could go like a full AMD system in the near future, potentially. This is big news because we now have one of the richest companies on the planet jumping into the arms race. Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Being that NVIDIA has really been at the forefront of AI, they are the company that you talk about when you address AI and AI capability based on hardware. Being that they're dominant in not only the graphics processing and AI sectors, the fact that they are jumping on ARM and getting ARM done for Windows means that we may have very, very capable ARM-based CPU architecture in Windows soon, which means a few things. x86 does not directly interface. So things that are designed and coded for the x86 platform do not directly interface with ARM. And usually there has to be an emulation layer between old x86 applications and new ARM architecture. And it'll be interesting to see, to say the least, how that's going to be dealt with, because we have been on an x86 for so long as PC gamers ourselves, that this ARM disruption may mean some pretty substantial things for us coming soon. Because NVIDIA's jumping on this ARM bandwagon, and because they are so prolific and powerful of a company in driving the tech sector forward, this may be like a really important thing coming up soon. They may become even a dominant part of the CPU manufacturing space. So this is another story where time will tell, but it could be like really impactful to how we play games right now.
Well, good for them.
Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff. Just wanted to bring that up as one of my last bits to talk about. Nick, you have more video games.
I got video games. Yeah, endless everything. I just had it. Amplitude Studios has been creating games in their Endless series, this shared universe, for 9,000 years now. Endless Legend, Endless Space, and now Endless Dungeon. I think this is actually technically the second in this series. But this got teased a while back. We talked about it on one of the game shows a year or two ago. And it's kind of right up my alley. This is a game where you and co-op buddies go to a weird, strange space station, if you will, and you are trying to protect a core. It's kind of a hybrid of a tower defense and a top-down Diablo-style action RPG, where you start in a core room with a thing that you have to protect, and you have random procedurally generated rooms that are behind doors. And when you open a door, you never know what you're going to find in there. There could be little mini factories for increasing your production, or new research, or new weapons, or enemies, or traps, or curses, or all kinds of things. And the doors that you open and the paths that you make determine the layout of your tower defense style defenses. You can attempt to, loop things back or make one long corridor, but you never quite know exactly where these doors are going to lead and how big the rooms are. So there's a lot of little mini meta games within the game itself as you're playing. Out of all of Amplitude's games, this is probably the best one out of the gate. Amplitude has had so much ambition, especially with their most recent product, Humankind, in attempts to really put their own twist on certain genres. If you've played Endless Space 1 or 2 or Humankind, you know what I'm talking about. Grandiose ideas that don't always pan out well. Their games are not bad, but you can tell that they were aiming way higher than they could reach. This game, from what I've seen, I'm not going to say is more conservative, but is definitely within its own means. And I am really liking what I'm seeing. Plus, I love co-op games. I love indie studios. I love cheap games and I love good games. And this is all 4 of those things. So the idea of working together with your co-op buddies in something similar to Helldivers or an isometric Deep Rock Galactic, maybe you could consider this, with a little bit of tower defense elements and roguelike RPG stuff. This is a great amalgamation of those things. And I'm looking forward to trying it out.
Yeah, me too.
This looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been on my radar for a little bit, and I've been watching the development every now and then. And yeah, this is for me feels like an instant buy and play with the guys.
It's almost
the
like
art
if
style
Risk
isn't
of
slouching
Rain was
at all.
a tower defense game. That's the visual vibes it's given off.
Yeah. And what'd you say, Josh?
I was going to say, and that art style is not slouching at all.
No, it looks great.
Really like the art direction that this thing is going.
Yeah. This game, again, is Endless Dungeon, another game in their Endless series. What I really do like about it is between Endless Legend, Endless Space, and Endless Dungeon, they're all in the same shared universe. In a similar way to like FTL and Into the Breach share lore and characters, even though they're entirely different games. So just another plus. Kudos for doing that. You didn't have to, but you did, and I appreciate you for it.
Yeah, no, it looks like Endless Dungeon is going to be a fun time, and I think it's probably something us as a group can sink our teeth into.
If it's cheap enough, this is the kind of game that I would just buy for 4 of us to play, because it's, I believe, up to 4-player co-op, and yeah, it's
totes my guts.
Right up my alley.
I'm in. Well, that is pretty much it for the news. I have a little bit more. It's less in the vein of video game news and more in the vein of video game tango news.
Ooh.
So, first thing I want to talk about is...
We're going to the moon.
Kind of. TwitchCon happened over the weekend, and they had a pretty big fucking announcement. They announced that they are going to be enabling full simulcasting, and they will have no limits on where you can simulcast to. That does mean that we had talked about this previously, where early it seemed like we were going to get simulcasting a while back, but then they limited it to just platforms that weren't YouTube or weren't their direct competitors. So you couldn't do Facebook gaming, you couldn't do YouTube, but you could sure do TikTok and Instagram if you wanted. They've totally unleashed everybody, including the majority of their partners. Partners that are still in exclusivity contracts, they will either need to renegotiate their contracts, or they will need to wait until their contract expires before they can do this. But anybody else that is not in an exclusivity contract, including partners and affiliates, and those that are not affiliated at all, can now simulcast to Twitch and other platforms simultaneously.
So meaning like when we went live here on Twitch, we would also be live on, say, YouTube.
On, say, like YouTube and, say, Facebook Gaming and potentially
I was
TikTok.
about to ask who Simon was and what is he casting, because you lost me for a minute, but I understand now.
Kick and Rumble and basically,
Not Rumble.
I mean, sure, but I'm just saying, you could.
Don't even joke.
You could broadcast. I'm not joking. You could broadcast a Rumble. You could clean that bitch up. You could be a positive presence on it, motherfucker. So, yeah, just wanted to point that out and say that this is going to be something that I'm going to be exploring. They're still making the terms of service for this. It even says in their simulcasting guidelines right now that while it's pretty much Wild West at the moment, that they are still exploring the entire terms of their terms of service when it comes to simulcasting. Some things that they know is that their TOS right now still has to be followed. Another rule is that you cannot exclude Twitch chat from your simulcast. So they don't want you excluding Twitch and Twitch features. But if you're on Twitch now, you can simulcast to other places. If you've been avoiding Twitch because you don't want to become part of the partner program and have some kind of exclusivity clause, you can now stream to Twitch if that's been an issue for you in the past. So yeah, it looks like a free season as far as casting to multiple places. And that's something that I'll be exploring. And then the last little bit of VGT news. We will not be here next week. Sorry, guys, ahead of time. Got some real life stuff going on that I personally need to take care of, so blame me. But we will not be here next week for a podcast. But we might figure something else out. We probably won't. But just want to let you know ahead of time that don't expect a podcast next week on the 1st, or depending on whether you listen to us live or you check us out later, just won't be one. So just want to let you guys know that. Doing some important stuff in the background. But hopefully that also means that, come podcast night, maybe I'll have a little bit of time to work on the podcast that I've been doing in the background for a little bit.
Okay.
Because we do have some upgrades and additions coming to the podcast that have been in the pipeline for some time now. So maybe I'll be able to spend another couple hours on that. Who knows?
Yeah. Honestly, next Wednesday, just rewatch your favorite episode of VGT.
There you go.
Do your own little rerun special,
Yeah, totally. Binge watch it.
Yeah.
The YouTube, it's there. You can,
You can even James watch it.
The Xbox Partner Preview shows us some games to look forward to. Nick shows us some games we can play now. And Josh and I talk about nerdy numbers and specs and whatnot.
Tonight on Top Tango, Andy explores his streamuality. Nick accidentally makes a ghost, and Josh sweats over Ghost Riders high on VRAM.
Hi, I'm Josh, and I've been simulcasting these nipples for years.
I'm Andy. This is Video Game Tango. Hey. Yep.
That was fantastic.
Thought of it while I was peeing.
Yeah,
was
that's
good.
good. That was
Did I say Top Tango?
that was a great intro.
Top Gear again.
No, you said Top Tango.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it was Top Tango this time.
All right.
Yeah, good times, good times.